Welcome back to the 10th episode of the International Leadership Podcast. Once again, my name is Joe Beauchamp. I'm your host today. Today we're visited by a very special guest, Javier Meneses from Quantic Bank. Javier, why don't you say hello to our listening audience?
How's it going, listening audience?
So on the International Leadership Podcast, we bring you leaders from around the world, and we focus on good leadership strategies. So we want to know something about you, Javier, your background, your interests, how did you get to where you are today? Then after that, we'll dig into a little bit of some good leadership strategies, just some good mortgage banking information, and whatever you feel like sharing with the audience that would be usable for them, the things that they need to know, tips and tricks, how to contact you, etc. So
Sure.
Why don't you give us some background, what you do, how you got here, how long you've been doing this?
So this year I actually made my 20th year in the mortgage lending industry. I've been helping home buyers, most of which are first-time home buyers here in Long Island and throughout the New York City boroughs. So I made 20 years this year. I've been working directly with realtors as far as referral partners as well. And this is actually like my second real job I ever had. I worked at Taco Bell in my teens when I was in high school. I did a little bit of college and hanging out, and then I did mortgages.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
those of you who are working in fast food industry, Taco Bell, etc., you too can be a mortgage lender.
Senior mortgage,
mortgage
a
lender.
VP, senior mortgage lending officer. Yep, it's
Awesome,
possible.
yeah.
And I learned a lot from my previous job, dealing with pressure, dealing with different types of people, which is something that we got into today with the presentation. It's helped me out a lot in dealing with and connecting with clients and dealing with different types of personalities.
Yeah, never discount any time that you're dealing with the public, because people are people, right? The same person that's going into Taco Bell or Starbucks or any of these, restaurant type things, they're the same people that are buying houses, doing businesses. It's like people are people. And so those people skills that you develop at any level are applicable everywhere. So 20 years, it's kind of crazy, right? Like, it must have flown by.
Fast. I feel like I've been at it for like 7 years, but no, it's 20.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to think that I started my first leadership job in 1995. It's been just about 31 years now since I started my first management job. So tell us, what is a senior mortgage loan officer do? What is that? What's the role of that?
Yeah, so my role is two things. I have two clients really. So I have my client, which is the home buyer or homeowner who's really applying for a mortgage, and it's under my guidance, and I take care of them, and I also take care of the realtors who are like my referral partners and connect me to these buyers. So for my clients, I try to cater to them. What is their best options as financing to their goals? And go to the documents myself and structure the loan from there. So I give them some service. And then for my realtor partners, I'm invested in helping them sharpen their skills to sell better and help them grow their business.
That's awesome. As a matter of fact, to that end, we had a training session today. We went over DISC personality types and how to really connect with our audience using, by understanding their personality type and then understanding their needs and being able to communicate with them better. Based upon their DISC personality type. So thank you for inviting me into that. So if we refer to any workshop today, that's the workshop that we're referring to, was a how to build rapport by using the DISC personality style information.
Yeah, you coached me on that at the end of last year.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a great opportunity. that anybody who's successful in business, they have ongoing coaching, ongoing training, ongoing sharpening your skills. You can't continue to use a tool without ever sharpening it. And so the people that are most successful in their careers, even in their marriages, in their family life, they're continuously on a self-development journey, continuously sharpening their skills. So kudos to you for really owning that. I think that's definitely a key component to your success, that you value that continuing, ongoing and development.
Yeah, I mean, and
so what are some kind of
No, I was going to say thanks for being there. I mean, a room full of realtors were able to learn about this topic, and I'm sure they're going to pick up on some skills that is going to help their business out as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Got a lot of really good people, fun crowd, and it's a great topic, and it makes a difference. So, for example, when people's communication style doesn't match, it's very difficult to communicate. One person is saying one thing, thinking they're communicating clearly, and the other person's needs met. And so understanding your own personality style and understanding the personality style of the other person helps you to basically translate your natural language into their natural language so they can understand you better. So Javier, tell us a little bit more about, like what's going on in the mortgage industry right now. Are things getting better for homeowners? Are they getting worse? Are rates going up? Are they going down?
Well,
how's the market
things are, so the general consensus is rates are high, home prices are higher, and a lot of people who are interested in pulling the trigger on a real estate transaction aren't doing so. They're almost on a standby kind of status. They're trying to outweigh this Iran war or the economy or high rates or whatever they got personally going on. And my game is contact sport. I try to make contact with as many people as possible. And some may need my help and guidance today, and some may need it later. And I just try to stay in touch with as many people as possible and take care of them when they're ready for me to help them out.
Yeah, so being an ongoing resource for them, so you're top of mind.
100%. And I stay in touch. I send videos, mass tags, I send emails, I send letters. I'm just trying to provide value with information and resources and placing myself in that position.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's take a look at it from, let's say, the homeowner's perspective. I remember when I bought my house, which was quite a long time ago, I didn't really know anything. I think I went right to a realtor, and that's the person that told me I needed to be pre-qualified for some dollar amount. So what would be, if we're talking to homeowners right now, or I'm sorry, first-time home buyers right now, what is their strategy? How do they go about this? What can you help accelerate that learning curve a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, day-to-day practice is like the way we buy cars. We tend to go to the car dealership without knowing if we can afford it or going to the bank first or anything like that. And the same thing with real estate. People want a house, they go to the person who has the house for sale, and which is why my hunt list is realtors, right? So that's how I get to the buyers. So the best way that I help buyers is by doing an in-person appointment. I do business locally. I do have clients from the boroughs all the way through the Hamptons, and my office is kind of like in the midpoint between the two. And I meet, I want to say 95, 96% of my clients in person. And I find my 20-year experience tells me that it makes a big difference for that buyer as far as what information they retain and what they understand about their process. And it eliminates a lot of surprises when it comes to numbers, payments, and how much cash is needed, rates, and things like that. And it comes with a little more of understanding on the process. So they freak out a little less. So it's a better experience when they're out shopping with a realtor. They don't have 100% understanding, but they have a great enough understanding where it's a smoother process. So I focus on that.
Is there anything that somebody should prepare ahead of time before, let's say they're thinking about buying a house sometime in the next 6 months or a year? Is there anything that they can do to prepare ahead of time to make that process easier when they finally are ready to buy a house?
Yeah, it's going to vary by people. I find that a lot of people may have questions around credit or credit status. The first thing I would say is there's a lot of free resources online where you can check your credit to see if there's any discrepancies or anything like that that you want to address ahead of time. you don't want to be at the point where you're pulling the trigger and just learn that you have a credit situation that you have to deal with, and it may consume months. It may set you off of your plan. So I would say monitor your credit, number one. Number two, your finances. I think becoming a homeowner really means making a lot of sacrifices. I'm sure when you bought, you might have made some sacrifices as far as your spending to be able to tighten up the belt a little bit to make homeownership possible. So always go over what type of debt you got carrying on, and just carry whatever you absolutely need. And I would say that's where the sacrifices come as far as saving some more money. I would say credit and managing your money would be the top two of mine for me.
Now, what about let's say it's a young couple, they want to buy a house. I'm not even sure what's the average, or like a median or normal like mortgage amount for out here on Long Island. So for those of you, we have a listening audience of over 170,000 people from around the world, 50 different countries. So we live in Long Island, Nassau, and Suffolk County. These are some of the most expensive counties to live in for real estate in the world. So it's very challenging for young people out here to purchase a home. So you're going to hear some numbers that might seem a little bit, a little shocking, but they're real. They're real numbers. It's not uncommon for people to pay, $1 million for a home.
Yeah, and what's interesting? I heard and I was reading a report. The average first-time home buyer is now 40 years old. This is just how and it's not just Long Island. Long Island's pretty expensive, but nationwide, the average home price has gotten up astronomically. And it has caused the first-time home buyer age to be at 40 years old at this point, which I don't know that was ever the case when I was young.
Yeah, that is crazy.
But but as far as numbers, I would say your average starter home in Long Island is going to be I would say roughly $600,000 to $650,000, and we're going to call most first-time home buyers are going to go with minimum down payment somewhere in the range of 3 to 5%. So I know that person should expect a monthly payment roughly $5,000 once you factor in property taxes and insurance and your principal and interest. So that's realistically what you have to prepare for, that type of payment. And I'm going to say you're going to need something in the ballpark of $50,000 to $60,000 or so to cover down payment and closing costs. So a family's goal is roughly accepting a $5,000 monthly payment and having to dish out around $60,000 to get that starter home in Long Island.
So, all right. So let's say it's a $650,000 home. Let's say they put $60,000 in closing costs. Does that take $50,000 at least off of the price of that house?
No. So buyers have to really deal with two things as far as money, right? One thing is going to down payment. So if you bought a $100,000 house and you did a 5% down payment, you need $5,000. Then on top of that, we need closing costs. Now, there's no set number that represents closing costs. It's going to vary from one house or one deal to another. But generally speaking, rule of thumb, they use about a 6% rule of thumb when it comes to closing costs. So when you're thinking about a 3 or 3.5% down payment and roughly 6% in closing costs, that means that a first-time home buyer sees a sticker price on a house, and they need roughly 10% to cover the minimum down payment and closing costs. So that does set us apart to the rest of the country, where it becomes a little bit expensive here in Long Island. And then property taxes is another thing as well, of course.
Right. Yeah, property taxes out here are outrageous. I don't know what the median is. I think mine is probably $15,000 a year.
And that's not that bad. That's not
that bad. Although somebody just moved down to South Carolina and told me that she went from $21,000 a year here to $1,500 a year down in South Carolina. So kudos to you guys out in South Carolina. Listening audience, if you're from Long Island, New York, consider South Carolina. Of course, everybody here in Long Island knows that it's cheaper pretty much everywhere else. So we're looking at $5,000 a month in a monthly payment. Mm-hmm. Let's say it's a husband and wife. What are we looking at for joint combined income to be able to afford that $5,000 from a loan officer standpoint? So
there's a cool thing that happened about a year or so ago, where some of these mortgage programs allowed the use of an illegal apartment in a house. So maybe when you were house shopping, you might have seen some houses that might have had a finished basement or garage. Maybe it's legal, maybe it's not, but the mortgage programs now allow us to use some of that rental income to help buyers qualify. And I was just having a conversation with someone today, like a good chunk of our clients fit that, right? So generally speaking, to get to a budget of about 650, you need an income roughly 100 to about 120 grand if you are or are not taking advantage of the apartment income in your home purchase.
All right. I mean, that sounds Long Island, especially if you're dealing with a couple, husband and wife. Probably both of them could be making, $50,000 to $60,000 a year,
yeah.
and that would get you to the 120, range. So as a senior mortgage loan officer, if somebody's credit is decent and they have, pay stubs representing, a steady salary of $60,000 a year for the husband, $60,000 for the wife, you'd feel safe and comfortable.
They'll have some options, of course.
They'll get it.
Yeah. That's really what it takes. I mean, banks are looking at those things, right? They want to see what your income is for the household or for the people on the application. They want to see what type of debt you're carrying and how your credit history and credit score is. And they want to see how much you have available for down payment and closing. They want to make sure you have what you need. And once you check those boxes, you're good to go.
So now, when I bought my house, I had a steady income. But now that I run my own business, it's very different. It's up 1 month, down another month, and I've got revenue, then I've got expenses and stuff. So from somebody who's an entrepreneur, in order for the underwriters to, go ahead and underwrite a mortgage for me, what would I need to do, or somebody in that same position, an entrepreneur, self-employed person?
Yeah.
What do they need to qualify?
So let's talk about the more common scenario that I see is a self-employed borrower who doesn't necessarily report all of their actual income to the IRS. They use write-offs, they use any sort of expenses to defend themselves against that. And maybe you reported to the IRS that after all your expenses, et cetera, you had a $50,000 profit. So us as a bank, that's your income. It's $50,000, even though we really know you earn a lot more. So that's where the cool thing about my bank comes into play. So I moved here going on 6 years. And the reason I moved here is this company has traditional loan products that would lend themselves to the first-time home buyer, husband and wife with enough income. But they also have a suite of untraditional programs called non-QM, where we do offer directly and we actually wholesale to other lenders as well. And this will fit someone who you just described, a self-employed borrower doing well, but is not reporting a lot of income or too much income to the IRS. And you still have the options to buy your first home, your second home. And we will pretty much look the other way on taking a look at your tax returns to document your income. So there's alternative ways on how to do that. And it lends itself to someone in that situation, frankly.
Now, of course, this is all 100% legal. It's drawn up into the law.
Correct.
Like nobody's doing anything
Correct.
underhanded or so looking the other way. That's how the statutes are written.
Correct.
It's not
these
certain
loan
documentation is
programs
not required anymore.
100%. Yeah, these loan programs kind of give you flexibility on how you document your income, and in exchange, they're going to charge you a higher rate because it's a riskier loan product. Is really what it is. But there is options available. I would consider them competitive and affordable options for someone in that situation.
So somewhere along the line, somebody's gonna, they're gonna take a little more risk, I guess, for a little higher interest rate.
Correct.
As far as the underwriter is concerned.
Yeah.
What kind of credit scores are we looking at? If for like say a first-time home buyer, what kind of credit score would somebody want to go in? Let's say it's a husband and wife couple.
Yeah. So if you and husband and wife have enough income, and we can apply for what's called an FHA loan, which is a government insured loan program, they'll allow you all the way down to a 580 credit score. So it's very forgiving when it comes to credit history and credit scores, but it does require the income. If we're talking about someone who cannot justify or document all their income, like the self-employed borrower we're talking about, that's someone who's going to come up with at least a 20% down payment, and you have to have good credit. And that generally means anything over 660 or 680, depending on your down payment.
Gotcha. So it's important for young people to make sure that their credit stays clean, pay their cards on time, pay everything on time, pay their student loans on time, make sure that there's nothing late. Probably that's something good to do, ahead of time. Maybe credit repair. Have you worked with like credit repair people? Does that work?
So I just
people
did
go
that.
through like a credit repair company to.
Yeah, I normally haven't in my 20 years. I just started about a year or so ago. My understanding is a lot of the requirements and rules for these creditors to report things in the credit report have changed a little bit. So it's become a little easier for them to remove certain things. So credit repair people have become pretty useful for me. But generally, yeah, I would encourage people to check your own credit and Credit Karma and just kind of spin through it and see what comes up. If you see old late payments or old collection accounts, things of that nature, see a loan officer, have them check it out, and they'll guide you to the right person who can help you clean it up a little bit before the time comes.
So some lead time is really essential. Planning ahead, starting young. Like I would just say, even to my kids who are in their 20s, it's time to start planning their credit score, their savings, their income documentation, everything to prepare for buying a home. Well, according to the national average, which is now in the 40s, I hope they're not living at home until they're in their 40s. But they should be preparing now. There's no time better than the present to prepare for future home buying.
Agreed. No, I agree.
Now, let's talk about leadership. This is the International Leadership Podcast. We do like to go into some leadership experiences and leadership strategies. Tell us about your leadership journey. You're a senior mortgage loan officer. You have people that report to you on your team. Obviously, you've got a lot of responsibilities. How did you climb up to that level? What were some of your struggles? Just tell us a little about your leadership journey.
Yeah. A lot of trial and error. And I think I got a lot of leadership education once I grew enough where I started hiring a team. And I probably made all the mistakes that people make, and it's still a work in progress to really not only identify the right person to hire, but also pour into them to make sure they have all they need to be successful. So the first thing for me comes taking ownership when things don't work out. It definitely was on me, right? Either I didn't identify the right person, or I didn't really give them all the tools necessary for them to be successful. So that can look many different ways depending on the situation and the person. But for me, constantly pursuing a better of people who are doing what I do at a higher level and me learning from them. So pursuing mentorship,
awesome.
guidance on how to improve the department is the number one.
That's great. I got to say that people I work with, they don't have that same level of ownership. And it's refreshing to hear the more people I do hear say, hey, listen, I own it. I hired the person. It's my fault. I didn't onboard them the best way possible. And just really take ownership of that. And, a lot of people are in the blame game of saying, you just can't find good people these days, or, there's no good candidates. Nobody wants to work. And meanwhile, that same person who's quote unquote not working for one company will work amazing for another company. And
Right.
It comes down to good leadership, right? So if you own it and you're willing to self-develop and grow and have a mentor, right? So you said it's always good to have a mentor who's already achieved where you want to go, and learn from them, right? And then be willing to fail, be willing to make mistakes, and fall and stub toe, and go through some discomfort and grow from it, with some humility and some evaluation. And we talked about, that C personality type is always evaluating. So you have that C personality type, evaluate, I made these mistakes. It didn't go right. How do we do this better next time? And then you just go right back out there again. So it's not just one of the things that John Maxwell says, it's not just failure, it's evaluated. It's evaluated failure. You're going to learn from it, and then you go back in again.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm sure some of my previous hires may not necessarily feel the way that I'm saying I am right now. I wasn't always in this sort of pursuit. Like I said, it was a lot of trial and error. But yeah, I think it's important to really just connect with the people, with the person, and then constant communication, right? Like, how are we doing? What could I do better? From your point of view, what do you think we can fix? And their feedback is important. A lot of times I might be involved in certain aspects of my business and they're involved in a whole nother. I could feel disconnected, and communication is pretty important to make sure that we have it all on the table and we stay in sync.
Yeah, that's a great thing too. I love how you describe to them. Party of communication is active listening, and your team, they're on the front lines. They're doing the work.
Right.
They've got really good insight. If that communication is open and they feel comfortable talking to you because you're humble and you're asking and you're interested in doing things better, and you've built a culture where they can speak up and say, hey, listen, this is not the most efficient process. This looks like it's falling through the cracks, or this isn't working right. Let's fix it. And they know that they'll be heard. They're going to keep making those continuous improvements, and the team's just going to get better. So great job listening. Leader. I call it listen first leadership.
Correct.
Most leaders think that they should speak.
Training.
But it's really.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like there was a time where that was a struggle for me, right? I'm a deep personality. Things tend to click in my mind pretty quickly, and then I just go. And there may be times where I delegate something and maybe I didn't go full in detail or really deliver the delegation correctly. And I'm assuming that you're clicking on all the things the way I am in my mind. And sometimes it doesn't, correlate to reality for me. So learning that as well, like how do you communicate with your staff, making sure that we're crystal clear on the expectations and the goals. And like I said, it's a work in progress always.
Right. Yeah. So I often will break leadership down into basically a 3-part formula, and part 2 of that formula is the equipping part, right? Have I trained well enough? Have I equipped them with every tool, every strategy, every training, every checklist, every awareness, everything that they need to be successful? And if I'm owning that as a leader, then my team is going to be prepared. I'm thinking ahead. I understand my team. I understand their learning styles. I understand their personality types, and I've given them every opportunity to be successful at that job. That's really my job as a leader, is to create that open door, that open space for that person to be successful.
Correct.
And if they're not, I really need to look at myself first. I hired them, I onboarded them, trained them. If I'm not successful, I can own that.
Yeah, and I think most of us get caught up at that point. Like we say, oh, that person didn't this, or that person didn't work out, and they go out and hire another one, and it happens again. And I think it's important to look at yourself and make the right adjustments. It's the truth.
I know somebody who, it's so odd. I've known this person for years, and I remember talking to this person, and they were saying, like, it just happens again and again, like this new thing, and it was the same, just repeating the same problems, repeating over and over again. Right. And I'm like, the problem is you're the common denominator, and all these different opportunities. It's not them, it's you. So
yeah, and if you don't have a coach there steady all the time, or someone to point these things out to you, because sometimes we're just so in the mix, we don't get to step back and really get a good view at things and say, oh, I'm in the wrong position, or so sometimes you need to make sure you're able to take the feedback from your team or those around you and really analyze that.
Yeah, that's a great point as well, because most business people, most business leaders are engaged in what I'll call the whirlwind of activity in their company, and it's just the day-to-day grind. That's just, there's calls, and there's clients, and there's people, and there's payroll, and there's all the other things that are involved in running a business or running a team, and it gets so inundating and so busy that sometimes an outside set of eyes and ears from a coach or somebody who's on the outside who can look in and say, okay, hey, this is what I see from the outside. That's a great perspective to have. Like, as a business leader, to be able to step back and take a look, or get some outside eyes and ears, and regroup, re-strategize, and then jump back in again. with some new strategy, taking ownership of it. And I think really that ownership is really a critical component, because without the ownership, you're going to be in the blame game, and the blame game doesn't. You can make excuses or you can make progress. You just can't make both, not at the same time.
Yeah, and I think and trying not to get too emotional about it. Sometimes it's tough to hear constructive criticism, and some people don't take it that well. Just keep in mind it's all for improvement, and it's part of the journey.
Yeah. So the emotional component is actually considered after the minimum technical qualifications, right? So once you've got your licensing or doing your job, obviously you can't be a senior loan without passing some sort of testing and licensing, right? But after that, thing that's going to determine any success as a leader is their emotional intelligence, their ability to be resilient, to be self-motivated, to tolerate ups and downs, to have the grit to continue to persevere. Every success story that I've ever read about is basically the same story. They jumped the edge of destruction for a long period of time, and then they started building up momentum, and then they became a success.
Yeah.
So that emotion is huge, not only to manage your own emotions, but the emotions of people on our team, right? So members of our team are going to get stressed out. Customers, deadlines, technology, a lot of things can get stressful, and having the ability to help the member of our team to manage their emotions and be really unflappable is a key component of leadership. If I can't help my team manage their emotions and they get emotional, the place is basically toast. Like, it just goes downhill from there.
No, I agree, and especially when you have, depending on what the business is, my business could tend to be high pressure deadlines. There's a lot of money involved for people who are buying these homes and desperation. So sometimes your team gets beat up a little bit with the work. Sometimes they're dealing with too much emotion on behalf of our clients, and you got to keep them steady.
Right. I'm sure it's very emotional for the homeowner as well. Like, not every homeowner, we often think about home ownership as, a very joyous experience. Like, oh, I'm buying my first home and I'm moving out of an apartment and into my house, and it's a very happy time. But there's a lot of, home purchasing that's, I'm downgrading because my kids moved out, or there was a death in the family, or, there's any number of things. Plus, moving to a new location is traumatic in and of itself. So you have all these home buyers, there's a lot of pressure. The industry is such now that when the person goes to bid on their home, there's like a frenzy of buyers all trying to buy the same house. And, I'm sure that people take that out on you and your staff.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the mortgage process in this country could be tedious as far as the documents that they ask from people. There's frustration from every angle, and yeah, the process these days and just finding a property or an opportunity for a property could be very stressful and difficult, and sometimes we become the punching bag. So we have personalities and emotions into a closing table one or the other.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, kudos to you. It definitely sounds like you got your hands full. It's quite an undertaking. Any advice that you'd give our listening audience, whether it be leadership, life, parenting? I know you have 2 daughters.
So I have 2 sons with an ex, and then I have 2 daughters with my wife. Yeah. Youngest is 8 and a 13-year-old daughter. So let's see how it goes. Teenage years are upon me. Let's see.
They're a lot of fun. So what would you what kind of advice would you give out to the listening audience? We don't really know. There's thousands of people listening from all over the place, different demographics, different countries, different states. But what would be something that you would encourage and inspire?
I'm guessing mostly listeners are business owners. Listen, I would say for me, most of my leadership experience has happened once I hired people, and I think it's important to keep my eye on the fact that this is a people business and life. And before I see someone as a dollar sign or a profit margin, I look at them as a human. And I think when I move with good intentions and I'm honest and transparent, 9 out of 10 times things tend to work out. And then when you add in seeking a little bit of coaching or mentorship, things just tend to fall in place almost always. So that would be my most pure advice, frankly.
That's awesome. And it's 100% correct. We've studied this out for years with thousands of businesses, thousands of people, and doing the right thing, like taking care of the customers, being honest, having integrity, being trustworthy, like it works. In the long run, it is the only strategy for success. Some people think that doing things underhanded for the short term will provide some kind of gain, and maybe in a very short term you might get some gain, but it always ends up backfiring in the end. So
Yes.
I appreciate that that you're pointing out really having good character is really the basis of business success, life success, relationship success, transparency, ethics, morals, good character, honesty, trustworthiness, all that stuff. Like we've studied it. It's proven. It works. Don't check your character at the door starting a business. Maintain your character.
Yeah, and people know that. Like, if you met me for the first time, I'm thinking 9 out of 10 times you feel like you can trust me because you could. And I think that a lot of times when you meet someone that might have a facade or maybe trying too hard, like it just throws off a different signal. You just pick up on stuff like that.
All right, two last questions. Question number one of the two is any books that you would recommend? I always love recommending books.
Yeah, no, I'll keep it simple. Raving fans really put me in the mindset of like, I got to take care of my clients. I want to make sure they have a great experience every time. I buy a whole bunch of them. I send them out as gifts to realtors to motivate them as well. So I would say raving fans. If your clients have a great experience with you versus the competition, they will continue to come to you.
That's awesome. I love that. I have to read that book myself, honestly. Who's the author? Do you remember the author of that?
I do not remember the author. I should know, but I don't remember. I'm terrible with that.
All right, no problem. We're gonna try to put it into the comments down below. But Raving Fans is the book. I'm gonna throw in there How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I love. Great book.
Yeah.
I've listened to that again on audio.
You told me about that book. I read that one as well.
Yeah, great book.
Yeah, that was
really with dealing with people, whether it be leadership or customer service. If you want to create raving fans, you gotta have strategies on how to be really a good person in relationship, and that's what the foundation of that book is. So last question, and that is somebody who wants to contact you, find out they want to do business with you, they want information, they want you to do their mortgage. How do we reach you?
So I am live and local. I'm one of those guys, you call my cell phone directly or you email me directly. I pick up. It's not, and we have a real conversation, and I'll take you from there. Best way to reach out to me would be, is it okay if I just give you my number?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So best way to reach out to me is 516-606-9648, and I see the emails on the screen as well.
Okay. And tell me about Quantic Bank real quick. QuanticBank.com.
Correct. Meneses at
Quantic. Going on there.
Bank.com. Say again?
The advantage of going with Quantic Bank. I mean, obviously you work for Quantic Bank, so we're going to get you, and we get Quantic Bank. But
yeah. So listen, I believe is the person you deal with. So I'm here, but most of all, this company has not just traditional programs available, but we are able to lend to a lot of New Yorkers who don't fit that regular mold of a buyer, that self-employed guy who's not reporting all their income, maybe just started their own business over the pandemic, etc. We have very good programs that lend themselves to those people in particular.
So there's a lot more options with you than maybe with your average other lender. So
correct. 100%.
Well, thank you so much, Javier. I appreciate you jumping on here. I know it was very last minute. We had I was doing the workshop with you today, and I'm like, hey, you want to show up on the podcast?
Yeah.
Like, okay, do it. So
No, I
thank you for
appreciate you
joining
having me.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. So to our listening audience, we appreciate you being here, listening, taking your time. Time is your most valuable asset. And so we do not take it lightly that you've spent this time listening and watching this podcast. We hope that you got some good value out of it, some good motivation, inspiration. Know that we care about you. We love you. We appreciate you. And we're here for you. So feel free to reach out. If you'd like to be a guest on the International Leadership Podcast, shoot me an email at info@bochampteam.com. That should be on the screen already. Yep, info@bochampteam.com. You can reach out to me on my website, bochampteam.com. Once again, I am Joe Beauchamp. I am your host here on the International Leadership Podcast, and we're looking forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching our podcast of the International Leadership Podcast. Once again, my name is Joe Beauchamp, president and founder of Beauchamp Team Growth Solutions. That's beauchampteam.com. If you like this episode, please like it, share it, subscribe to this channel. If you're interested in being a guest or a sponsor of this program, please give me an email at info@beauchampteam.com. I'm more than happy to talk to you about it and discuss options and how it can work something out for everyone to win. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Bye.